Hello and welcome to the Game Bet Match Podcast. My name is Manny Friedman, along with my co-host
Brad Sloan.
All right, let's get into it. Tennis season is well underway.
Third day, baby.
Absolutely.
Fourth day.
It's in full flow. We got the United Cup going. We got Adelaide. We got Pune. Two 250s. These guys are all taking these tournaments very seriously, it looks like, because it's, there are not too many warm-up events before the Aussie Open. So we'll get right into it. We've been making bets every day. We've been actually doing quite well. I know Brad here is undefeated.
For our bets, you can go to the Game Set Match Twitter. You can see some of our bets of the day on the days that we don't put up pods. So that's definitely go there to see our random bets and parlays of the day. But it's been a pretty good week so far.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been doing pretty well. I know Brad is undefeated. Is that right?
Yeah, 4-0. I'm pretty conservative in my betting, but so far no losses. So we'll see how long that lasts. I'm a little worried about tonight, but we'll get into that.
I've been placing more parlays, and of course you can't win every parlay, but I have to say I've been doing better than expected. The parlays I've been losing by like one leg or, two. I think I had two pretty bad days, but the other days were quite solid. And I did cash on, I believe, one or two of them. So it's been a good start, and let's get into them. Let's get right in. So let's start with Brad's bets of the day, because he's been very successful. We've been starting this spreadsheet here where we track what's going on. So let me see.
Yeah, so I've been very happy. I've made bets that I really believed in, and I really had reasoning for believing in, and they've all come through in pretty strong fashion. And honestly, I like all four of the bets that I've won so far this year. So I had Hichikata versus Shapovalov a couple nights ago. Hichikata, awful match to watch. Just a lot of bad errors from both players, especially Shapo. But Hichikata did cover the 4.5. So as a betting man, I was happy. So we had Sinner versus Edmund. Edmund is just, I called it on the last podcast. Edmund is not good. That's one of my takeaways. I will look to ride that train for the next few tournaments as long as it lasts. I imagine based on his previous success, he'll probably get a protected ranking for the next, 4 or 5 tournaments. And I think there'll be some opportunities to bet against Edmund. He played in the UK Pro League in November. And while he did win the UK Pro League, it was not in the dominant fashion you would expect for a league that is a challenger and futures level league. He actually lost several sets against challenger and futures level players. Bet Nishioka, guy that a lot of people don't like to bet this guy. I actually like to bet Nishioka. He's a battler, and I think he's a really good bet to cover spreads. Yeah, he's a guy who I really like to spread bet, because he battles, and he battles for games, which is something that I look for when I'm betting spread, because obviously spread you're betting that the player will win X number of games more, right? Whereas the actual goal of both players is to win the match. But a guy like Nishioka, who's a true battler, a borderline pusher for the ATP level, if you can use that insult for any ATP player. And then I have the under on Shapovalov and Safulin tonight, and that went really well. My reasoning was basically that Safulin is a bomber, kind of like Shapo, but Shapo is just a better player, just more athletic, just bigger game. And the point here being is that I'm not all in on Shapo yet, but against a guy who's going to hit the ball to him and try to out hit him, I like Shapo in that type of matchup. I think he's going to be a very matchup specific player over the next few months. The Hichikata match was as solid as he looked today. He looked bad against Hichikata. Manny, what are your best bets of the year so far and your most painful losses? You got a lot more than me to talk about.
Ooh,
so.
Yeah, I have to say I've been exhibiting slightly more degenerate behavior than Brad over the last couple days. I've just been so excited with the start of this year. And as far as my single bets go, I am undefeated besides today, which I didn't include on the spreadsheet yet, but I was getting to it. Instead of the under in the Shapovalov Safulin game, I bet the spread, and I bet Shaflunin to cover 3.5. That didn't happen. Shapa just makes too many errors, and I was just thinking the guy is just steady enough where he's going to be able to keep the sets competitive and close. Didn't happen, but you win some, you lose some. As far as my bets of the day, I started the first day of the season. I thought this was absolutely amazing. Day one of the United Cup, Manarino versus Korea. To get that at -112, when Korea, I think, barely wins matches on hard court. And Manarino is tough on these fast, low bouncing Australian hard courts. He won 2-1, so that was easy money at -112.
He's a Corey. I'm really surprised that the betting lines would back Korea that much. It's something that's gonna be interesting to look at, I think, over the next couple of months. He's another kind of lower ranked guy who you might be able to make some money on, especially during the hard court season.
Definitely. I mean, I would be shocked if the lines continue to be that favorable for his opposition. But absolutely, that's a guy you have to fade. That's a guy you have to bet against on the hard court. The clay is a totally different story. And, obviously when the clay season starts, we'll touch on him, I'm sure. Probably the best bet of the entire first week of the season was betting Lechka versus Zverev. I was actually shocked to see that at +525. I even saw +600 on some sites. But going into the match, I didn't necessarily think this would hit. But that being said, this is Zverev's first match after probably one of the worst injuries we've seen on the tennis court, right? So he did play some exos, but that's not the same as matches also with the pressure of playing for your country. I know we don't really care about it, but they do. So to get that at +525 is crazy. The spread was Zverev -5.5. Actually, Lechka covered that because he won 4-2. So that is wild. That is like a 12 games spread switch, which is just insane. So that was an amazing bet. Hurkacz versus Bublik over 22.5 was another good hit. That was third day of the United Cup. Those guys, I mean, Hurkacz is the better player. He won the match, but you're just going to expect long sets with those guys. They have big serves. They don't particularly return very well. So just, playing the over, you get 2 long sets and you hit that. So
and this is something that I'm going to be looking for over the next, again, especially as we go through the hard court season. On clay, we'll have to tone it back quite a bit here, but when we're in the hard court and the grass court season, is looking at overs, even high overs, on matches with bad returners, even more so than good servers, maybe looking at return ability more than serve. So that's something that I'm going to be looking to exploit over the next few months.
Absolutely. And then apparently these books didn't really learn their lesson with Zverev going into the next group stage match, because Fritz -2.5 was only -115, and Fritz is a way better player than Lechka. So to hit that was easy. It was 6-1 in 20 minutes. So that was a great hit as well. And then I followed Brad's lead on the Hijikata +4.5. A horrible match. I lost. I don't know why I lost sleep, but I was exhausted at work the day of that match. But at least we won some money. So I guess it was worth it in the end. But what were some other ones that I didn't put on this sheet? I was actually getting to it. Yesterday, Berrettini money line against Hurkacz. He was actually an underdog in that match, surprisingly. Berrettini played a fantastic match against Casper Ruud. Beat him 4-4, served exceptionally well, played the key points well, big forehand. I mean, I was impressed. It was solid. And Ruud didn't play his best, but he didn't play like terribly. And I thought that going into a match against Hurkacz, he was the clear favorite, and he won in 3 sets. So
one of the storylines I'm really looking forward to seeing is Manny's thoughts every time on a Berrettini match. if we have a storyline,
I am very high on
podcast
Berrettini
over the next 3 to 6 months. I'm really looking forward to Manny's thoughts every time Berrettini plays. Because I'm sure we'll have a segment every time he plays.
Probably. I am huge on Berrettini. The guy is mentally tough. I want to see what kind of draw he has at the Australian Open, but I'm sure I'm going to be backing him to make quarters or something like that. So, as far as parlays go, these are on the Game Bet Match Twitter feed. This one was a fantastic one. Nishioka and Kachanov in Adelaide. I know that Brad is high on Nishioka. I faded him a lot last year, and that was a mistake. And I learned my lesson. The guy is tough. He's very unconventional game. That loopy forehand, just ugly. Like no one wants to play the guy. And he had some amazing covers last year, so that was great. And McDonald, like, he's underwhelming. Like, what are your thoughts on Matt?
What has McDonald done? I mean, what has he done ever?
Nothing.
Warrant like any. I mean, he maintains his ATP card, so he's obviously not that bad. But what does he do that, like, he's a very
good mover.
Toast player. I don't like bookies seem to like him.
Right.
I don't really, or at least more than they should. I don't really understand why. Like, he hasn't had any like what's the memorable Mackenzie McDonald win that you remember? I don't
It's probably that final run in Washington in 2021. But that's it.
Probably. I mean, I don't even remember that anymore, but it's been that's 2 years. I mean, a year and a half ago now. And we just, I mean, we haven't seen anything to me that, again, he maintains his card. He does beat, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I imagine does pretty well against the 80 to 120 range in the rankings. But he, he's better than the challenger level guys, but he's at the bottom level of the ATP Tour card guys.
Yeah, he is. I mean, until I see more from him, I'm not really going to back him.
And he's also not like he's got an interesting game. He's got like a little bit of a quicker game, a pretty aggressive game for a smaller guy. But
he's like a poor man's Goffin is probably
or maybe a poor man. Maybe he's kind of like an RBA that's just not as good, like a poor man's RBA. But there's all similar guys, But then you're right. I mean, it's that type of style. But
right.
So kind of an interesting style, but not.
Yeah, he has nothing special. No real big weapons, and I mean, he moves well and stuff, but it's just
the forehand's kind of cool. It's really flat. The forehand, which is interesting for an ATP player, but it's it's not. I'm not loving Mackie.
Yeah,
kind of disappointing because not surprising, but I guess after the NCAA title win back in 19, was it? It had to be pre-COVID, 18 or 19.
Yeah,
I actually kind of believed in the guy a little bit, but it hasn't really grown in the way I was hoping in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, and then the other half of that parlay, Kachanov plus 105 against.
Yeah, this was a genius bet. I mean, in reality, this was a genius bet. I think. Manny, you called it right on the head when you said this was one of those matches where you just take the plus money and run.
Yep.
You don't know anything. You don't know anything. It's a hard match to call anything on. It could go either way. It's a coin flip, but when you get the plus money on the coin flip, that's value. You take the value and you roll with it.
And plus, Kachanov is ranked 20 spots ahead in the rankings. I mean, the rankings don't lie.
But to some extent, although Draper has come up in the past, 6 months, right? He's still working his way up the rankings, so there's probably that's probably a little bias. I don't think Kachanov is 20 spots better than Draper.
Draper has a lot of holes in his game, which I think physically he's not up to par. His body does break down on him.
And it's here too. I mean, Kachanov has his issues mentally, but Draper, a lot of weird.
Draper's backhand is weird. He has trouble kind of moving to the backhand side. And he's not really good with his forehand on the run. He's good kind of in the middle of the court if he's able to dictate. But he's not the best.
Again, it's surprising that he wouldn't be like if there was a place he'd be successful, it would be on these middle to mid fast, hard courts in pretty good weather conditions. So I mean, I actually, one of my bets that I have as a futures bet is Draper to win a title this year. at some point. I think with his game, I think he can be. I don't know if he's going to be I don't know if he's going to be top 20, but I think he can put one run together somewhere. But yeah, not looking as happy about it after this match versus Kachanov. I mean,
Yeah, it
Kachanov
wasn't
pretty good.
It was an entertaining match. It started, he started well, and then kind of Kachanov just applied pressure on him, and he just couldn't match him from the baseline. So, and the second set was a beatdown. So, yeah, plus money for a guy ranked 20 spots. I mean, you have to take it. You have to.
I love Kachanov as a dude too, in the way he plays. I don't know necessarily like his style is maybe that fun to watch, but the guy battles, has some mental lapses at times, but he does battle.
But the guy also does not
succeed.
He does not break down physically. The guy is a physical specimen, whereas Draper does. And I'm not saying these 2 out of 3 set matches.
He's young. Draper's a young dude
really
too. He's got we'll see. Give him a couple of years, let him grow.
Yeah.
Not that might be one of my takeaways from the beginning of the season is catching up. But Manny, let's go into some of the painful losses. I just want to hear you ride.
Oh, okay. Well, this was my parlay today, and as we went into it, I didn't hit it with Safalun and not being able to hit even the 4.5. He was serving at 3-5 in the second set, and he had a game point to win. And he blew it. So, but I would have won that.
Ugly double the point after that.
I know. It's terrible. It's an alternate spread that I couldn't even hit. And then Djokovic had a really tough match against Halis today. I mean, we were talking about it a little earlier today, me and Brad, about just whenever there's a spread of over 6.5, it's really tough.
Yeah, my line is 5. Once these spreads get over 5, it gets so tough. I mean, Djokovic actually had the same spread against Lechien, who I like, has really come up and played pretty well in the Challenger Tour. He's starting to get bids into ATP tournaments based on his ranking. But Djokovic covered 6.5. He covered it 6-3, 6-2, which is 7. But it was because he served first. It's these big lines of anything over 5 are tough because you're just wondering like how many games is the guy going to win by, and a 6-3, 6-2 match and a 6-4, 6-3 match can be a 6-3, 6-2 match can be tighter than a 6-4, 6-3 match. I mean, depending on how the guy's playing his return games. So,
and Halis played a hell of a match. He was up 3-love. He came out right out of the blocks firing away.
And, I think this is probably more Halis playing at the top of his game.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And playing well. And, more, he gave Djokovic a run here. This was not an unlucky loss or a lucky cover for Halis. Halis covered strong.
My rationale behind this match was I thought he would win somewhere between 4 and 8 games, right? Like it could be a 2-2 or it could be 4-4. But the fact that -6.5 was plus money is what enticed me, because you're kind of getting value there. If Djokovic loses only 4, 5, or 6 games. So that was my rationale, but it probably wasn't parlay worthy. It was probably something I should have done more as a single bet, but you live and learn. I mean, it is what it is. Yesterday was a fantastic day. These were a couple parlays that I hit. If we get into this, this was unbelievable. Musetti to win 2-0 against some guy I never heard of on the Polish team. And then Fritz, Nori, Hurkacz, Berrettini, and Tsitsipas Kors. They were all tight matches that went the distance. So I hit that. That was nice. I know Brad is not interested. He's just waiting to hear about my losses. But let's give me some moments of glory first before this was another good hit with Tiafoe coming back from a set down against Evans, Berrettini against Hurkacz. I got to put Berrettini in every parlay I put because he's, I love the guy. Koric to win a set. That was painfully close to not happening. I think he saved like 3 match points in that second set. And then I just added a women's match to give me an odds boost.
How did you know to add Magda Linette versus Lucia Bronzetti?
Bronzetti
I didn't even know those two played tennis.
Bronzetti was losing like 1-1 to guys to other girls in the top 150 in the United Cup. So I was just, at minus 250, I'm just going to plug that in. I think that was 1-1.
Well, I'm glad the United Cup at least puts the women against the women and doesn't have like men's singles versus women's singles. I'm glad they didn't mess the form up that badly.
Yeah. And then this one, obviously I added Kachanov and Nishioka, and then the under 20.5 for Medvedev and Kekmanovic. Medvedev just eats Kekmanovic for breakfast. I know Medvedev is tough to bet. Kekmanovic can also be really good, if he's firing in all cylinders, but just the matchup just kind of fits right into what Medvedev wants. It's just, I think he beat him in straight sets at the French Open, which I did not expect. It just shows like that on Medvedev's worst surface, and probably Kekmanovic's best surface. Would you say clay is his best surface or hard?
It's close. Probably a slow hard.
Hard.
But he's definitely not a bad clay player. The story there is more Medvedev straight setting a clear top 50 guy on clay is surprising, because Medvedev is, he's not interested in anything but the hard courts.
Well, to me, that just shows that the matchup is really good for Medvedev.
Right, it is. I mean, that's we agree on that. I think that's clear in their matches that they've had previously. All righty, here we go.
Here we go on to my painful losses. This was brutal yesterday. So I bet the 3 in the city finals yesterday. I bet the USA, Poland, and Croatia to win. So USA and Poland, they're clearly the deeper teams. USA, I mean, they're pretty loaded on both sides. They have Fritz and Tiafoe on the men, and then they have Keys and Pagula on the women. So they were going to beat the women, were going to win, and then it all
lost a set, right? I thought I saw somewhere that Keys lost a set.
Keys lost a set. She won the match, but it didn't really matter at the end because they won the doubles too. They have really better doubles. So minus 350. I'm going to play them. Poland. Hurkacz and Berrettini, it's 50-50. I mean, I thought Berrettini would win, which he did. And then what was the other? Musetti against someone I never heard. So that was going to go Italy's way, but the women were superior for Poland. And then they were going to play Hurkacz and Swiatek for the mixed doubles. So I was like, they have the clear edge. It went exactly the way I predicted, and they won that. Now, Croatia, Greece. So both of them were I think Croatia was minus 120, Greece was minus 110, I believe. So Greece is more top heavy. They got Sakari and Tsitsipas. So most likely they're going to win, but the number 2s for Croatia were way stronger. And I thought Koric or Martic could have pulled out a win. They couldn't. Koric was exceptionally close. And then the doubles, it could go either way. So good bet, painful loss.
Do you think if Greece's captain had made a different choice at number 2 singles that they could have won?
Who?
If Greece's captain had made a better choice at number 2 singles, do you think they could have won?
I mean, they probably could have pulled some captain on the Greek islands or something, or on one of those ferry ships, and probably had the same chance to win the match. So
what I'm referring to is I believe that Tsitsipas named his brother as the captain, who also plays professional tennis, I think on the Futures Tour. So he theoretically could have played himself, and it might have been as good of a chance.
Right, exactly.
As we did play.
Terrible loss. But that was that. As far as some other parlays, this was also painful yesterday. I had Berrettini in almost every parlay yesterday because he was plus money against Hurkacz after a great win against Ruud. Nishioka was in that parlay, and Iga minus 6.5. I mean, I thought it was a clear mismatch there. I don't hate betting these minus huge lines nearly as much on the women's side as I do the men's. I don't bet much women's, but the serve is not as big of a player in the women's game, and so we've definitely seen Swiatek cover these massive lines before. She has. I mean, she's been great all year or all year last year. She's been when she's on her run, she just destroys people. So, and she started that match 6-2-3 love, and she couldn't cover 6.5. So that was a tough loss. That was a tough loss. What else? This was a bad day. It was lost right off the bat because Rude lost to Berrettini. 6 legs just don't happen. Probably not going to do that anymore. This was another painful one. This was just terrible. Fritz minus 2.5 against Zverev. We went through it. Bet of the day. Musetti 2 sets to love against another Norwegian no name. Rinderknecht versus Coric. That was, I believe, 2 tight sets. So over 21.5 was good. I think that was 6-6. So Rinderknecht actually is underrated, and Coric plays a lot of long matches. So
I also don't know. I mean, I don't know how good Coric is. Like, and I feel like there might be opportunity to bet against Coric because he had that run in Cincinnati, but outside of that,
that's true.
He hasn't done that much. I think like it's like 40% of his points, maybe more, that one turn. It might even be over 50%. He might have like 1,800 points and 1,000 from that win in Cincinnati. Like, it's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he's not that good. So Tsitsipas against Gofan, he won that, and then Nadal screwed me. I mean, we'll get into this, in our next segment when we talk about kind of takeaways from the first week of the season, but that was an ugly match. I mean, Nadal should win that. He's clearly the better player, and he won the first set pretty easily. De Minaur won the second pretty easily, and he had multiple break points that he couldn't capitalize on. And then he got broken to love at 5-all in the third with 3 just horrendous errors. I mean, it was terrible. It was just, I stayed up for that too. That was another night I lost a lot of sleep for.
And money.
And money. I lost sleep and money.
That's a bad combo. Now you have to go work an extra hour to make that up. That's not a fun time.
So that was a painful loss for sure. This here was a loss as well. I didn't know Zizou Bergs was that bad. He actually played well on the Challenger Tour at the end of the year, but he was just absolutely awful. I think that was 2 in love he lost.
Yeah, I've only watched one of his matches ever. It was like a US Open qualifier or something. Mm-hmm. To me, he looks like a guy who has the talent. When we talk about this with some of these a lot of these challenge level players, he's kind of in that same boat for now, where he just mentally checks out for individual points, games,
seemed like that.
And at the pro level, I mean, especially in the men's game where serve is so important, you can't check out for 3 points on a service game. It's just it's fatal. Do that 3 times in a match and you're done. And so.
And he didn't play the best player. He played another challenger level player and lost 2 in love.
Yeah, so 2 in love is really bad, and that's even more concerning. I don't know, but I'm a little worried. Not worried, but we'll see what happens there.
I mean, I got that wrong. Hurkacz Bublik I got right. Busta I think is hurt right now. He didn't play both matches at the United Cup. So that's
unfortunate. Busta. Booster rhymes.
Yeah, what do you think about betting Busta?
I will bet him to cover. I'll bet him to cover a decently sized. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I won't bet him at all because the problem is he's too good to get good lines against guys who aren't elite. He doesn't quite have the game to match up with the elite players, although he battles. And then he has against other guys around his level where he gets even money odds. He's gotten a little better over the past 5-6 months, but before that, he just had some awful mental losses. The worst was the Sinner match. I bet him against Sinner in Miami, and I think he blew 7 match points or something. And he was up a set. In 6-5 and blew that, and just capitulated 8 match points away throughout the second and third set, and was just very sad. It was a 4-leg parlay. That was the last leg. And so
he has such a tendency of getting tight. When he gets tight in those key moments.
Yeah, he just gets tight. It's not that he checks out. It's different than some of these other guys. He gets tight.
Yeah.
So he's a really hard guy to bet.
He doesn't hit the ball. He just pushes the ball. And
Yeah,
he's
but
like tightened
he
up for no
beats
reason.
guys, but he battles, and so therefore
Yeah.
he beats guys who make errors, and he's a conundrum for me to bet. But I love him as a
Yeah.
player. So
Yeah. I mean, I like him too. I
yeah.
think he was just a better player than Evans, like, which is why I bet him. And in a team competition where, the teammates can help get behind you, I thought that was a decent bet. I mean, it ended up being a push because he didn't play anyway, but so that was a loss there. This one here, this was my day 3 United Cup parlay. I think this one I cashed. Yes, this one I won. So Brad's not interested, right?
No, I think we should moving on to Manny. What are your kind of key takeaways from the first kind of 3 days of the season so far? We're getting our first, our first couple of data points in. Anything that you see as we look at the season that you think is relevant here?
Yes. So my first key takeaway is let's bring back the full screen. Yeah. All right. So my key takeaway, I think, is we gotta fade Zverev. As long as these books don't kind of realize that he's playing terribly right now and give him kind of favorable odds just because of his track record and his past results and stuff, and I think you have to just bet whoever he's playing. Just for doesn't even matter. Like if he's playing anyone in the top 100. You should bet them, especially.
And I agree. And I think beyond that, I think that's a message across almost anybody. Like none of these guys who sit out for multiple months come back and are the same the first tournament back.
Unless you're Nadal or Federer.
Even Nadal, the first tournament back is not, a lot of times he's not the same guy. Fed maybe depending on what tournament it is, but I think that, we saw a team last year go through a horrible run.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't win a match in the Challenger Tour for a couple months. Had a hard time on clay, his best surface. So, yeah, I think that's going to be an overall takeaway for me in general. You don't see a whole lot of injuries like Zverev's, so it's you get limited opportunities but guys, when guys get things like wrist surgeries or knee surgeries. Something to think about, when they come back, you might be able to squeeze a good month or so of solid betting against them.
Because now, mentally he has to think about his leg because he's not moving quite as well. But prior to the injury, he actually had some technical lapses, which were alarming as well, like the serve, and when, you're not moving that well, it's imperative that you serve well to kind of win those free points. And he's not doing that either. So, you kind of add 2 and 2 together and it just kind of leads to someone that you have to fade going
Yeah,
forward.
I'm fading Zverev until he proves to me that I shouldn't fade him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. And he's got to show me for a week or so. I'm not going to be prisoner of the moment and just see one good match from him.
Yeah, I've got to see a couple good matches. I've probably got to see a couple good matches, and I got to see a couple good matches in a row. They can start stringing things together. So,
and another guy to fade right now is Nadal. I have to say it. He's lost 6 of his last 7 matches, if you can believe it. I think it's one of his worst stretches of his career.
Yeah, it's concerning, right? Because at some point here, the other shoe drops. Mm-hmm. I'm probably just going to stay away from Nadal for now. I'm not sure if that's me being rational and saying that he's come back from these types of things before, or if it's me being really hoping that he keeps his ranking up in order to win our rankings bet. But it's one of those two, and I'm not sure which. But I didn't see the match versus De Minaur. It is only one match. That said, you said you thought it was more Nadal not being good than it was De Minaur.
Absolutely, 100% against Norrie as well. Norrie, he does everything better than Norrie. He's just a better version of Norrie, and to have Norrie kind of elevate to be better than him and beat him is not a good result. I know Norrie's a top 10, top 15 player, but still. And what makes me concerned about him is actually the physical part of it, is because, and he's not injured, right? He said his foot is better. He's been, I think they came out with a treatment that really helps him. So I think that's not the issue. But he's been winning the first sets, and then he's been going away as the match has gone on. So he has not been able to sustain a high level to win these matches, whether in 2 or 3 sets. So that's a little bit concerning. He's actually come out of the gates pretty well. But it's maintaining that level, which he's really struggled with recently. So, and his abdominal is still not right. Like I know Courier on the air was kind of pointing this out, where his ball toss is a little bit to the right. So he's not like serving, or a little bit too much to the left. So he's not really serving with the same venom as he usually does. So I don't know. It's just something to point. I mean, obviously we got to see the draw in Australia, and like I can't bet him to not make like a 3rd round, but like once he meeting the seeded players, like I might have to take a stab at.
But you're not going to get any kind of value betting it down money line in round 1 of the Australian Open.
That's true.
You're going to get like minus 50,000 or something.
Right. But if he has to play like a Kachanov in round 4, or if he has to play I don't know, what's another example?
A Sinner.
Yeah, but that would be in a quarter. So yeah, like it just like maybe a top 20 guy who's a guy ranked between 20 and 30 that he could meet in a 3rd
RBA,
round.
that's somebody who could be in the 3rd round, like an RBA type of player. That'd be an interesting matchup.
Right. Someone like that who can get a lot of balls back. Like even if he had to play like a Coric, for example, who has a good backhand and matches up well against him, that would be a tough match for him, because Coric doesn't really miss balls. He's going to force Nadal to play. And he struggles with guys with good 2-handed backhands. So there are a few guys there, even like a Tommy Paul who beat him in Paris. If he had to play him, that's another. Korda is another one. Van de Zandschulp. So there are a few guys like within 20 to 30 range that if he plays in the 3rd round and he doesn't really show drastic improvement early on in the event, I might have to take a stab.
Yeah, I think those are good takeaways. What do you think about Rune? Are you concerned about Rune losing to Nishioka?
Should we be concerned about anyone losing to Nishioka though?
I don't think so. I'm not, and that's it's an interesting. It's a loss that at first glance looks really bad, right? A top 8 guy losing to a guy who's, I think Nishioka was in like 40s. He might be lower. He's ranking is not anywhere near Rune's.
Yeah,
it looks scary. It looks like a major upset, but in my mind, I'm not surprised Nishioka won that match. It's something that, looking back on it, I probably should have bet. Easier to say now, but I mean, really, like Nishioka is that's a tough matchup for Rune.
I mean, he came out flying. He was up 6-2, and then he just couldn't maintain the level, and Nishioka just made a ton of balls. I mean, that's what it boils down to. What do you think? It's like due to Rune not really having an off season and playing all those exos?
I'm a little worried about it. I mean, those he's young, but what I wonder more than even the not recharging is, does he lose that opportunity to practice? And did he lose an opportunity to practice and improve on his game by playing exos instead?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, honestly,
what about FAA?
What?
FAA losing to Popperin.
It's a good thing to discuss. I'm not that worried about that one. Popperin's a big server, tough player, especially for FAA, who has made inroads and worked on his return game, getting better, but probably still has some work to do there. I also, when these guys play at home, almost all these guys get a lift, right? Like, I feel like it's probably a game or 2 lift for a guy playing at home. Like, if I see a betting line and it makes sense to me, and one guy's playing at home and another guy's, another guy's not, I'm taking the home guy. Yeah,
which is why I like Kokkinakis tonight plus 3.5 against.
Yeah, I think that's, in my mind, that's a 4.5 or a 5 if at a truly neutral site, and so I stayed away there. But I don't hate the 3.5 there. I think there's certainly more value going with the plus than the minus.
Yes,
I mentioned before. I mean, there's a few guys out there to fade, right? So Edmund, Sinner, that's probably more what I'm looking at is who are the guys that look like, who are the, Corey on Hall, like who are the guys that are getting favorable lines based on something that are guys who can fade hard.
I mean, I'm surprised that I'm saying that I'm fading Zverev and Nadal, right? There's like two guys that you would think you shouldn't fade, but
Zverev, I'm not so surprised by.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a bad injury, and I didn't know how he would recover from that. We obviously both liked Lechka in that match. I mean, I took Lechka plus the 5.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, but losing 4-2 to Lechka is concerning on anything that's not play. That's a very concerning loss. I mean, otherwise, I don't see anything. I mean, in terms of like news, obviously the Djokovic news is a big deal, so we can move to that. It sounds like with the vaccine mandate extension, he will not be playing in the in Indian Wells or Miami at least. So I think that's is there anybody else impacted that? But I don't think so. The only other the only other ATP level guy who I can think of that's not that isn't vaxxed is Sandgren, and Sandgren's an American, so this doesn't apply to him.
Yeah, he's really falling off a cliff though.
Yeah, I mean Sandgren has not looked good. Any concern about Draper? Do you take anything out of the Draper Kachanov? Or do we take anything out of Rublev losing to RBA? I don't think so. I think I don't think either of those are terrible losses.
Yeah, the Rublev RBA. So RBA typically, which I should have known or thought about prior to the match, he starts seasons very well. If you remember, he won in Doha, beating Djokovic in a very high quality 3-set match.
He's also an older guy, right? I mean, I think he's in his 30s now. He was a late bloomer. Yeah, he's 34.
But he needed that month to have that off season, and I think he took the full month where he kind of re-energized. That being said, I think
Rublev played the XOs too.
He did, yeah. He played in Saudi.
So that would be another takeaway that we talked about before. Is these XO guys? I may need to look at who played those XOs and fade them for the first month of the season, because there may be something real there too. You need to look at it a little more, but it's interesting. I mean, but yeah, I think.
That being said, RBA just lost.
RBA is slightly.
He just lost the court of 4-4. So
maybe RBA is but that's not
a terrible loss. It's not great.
It's not great, but it's not terrible.
It
doesn't make me happy about RBA. It makes me think that it's more of the story there might be more Rublev than RBA. Other than that,
I think Rublev was up like a set in the break. So, I mean, I don't know. I've always thought Rublev has something missing. I thought he was about to turn the corner. He made the semis of the World Tour Finals. He finished the year pretty well. And I thought he was just in a better vein of form, but RBA does start seasons pretty well. He has a proven track record of that. And he made quarters, I think, at the Aussie one year. So that Doha run was quite impressive. I think back like 3 years ago. So I don't know. That's not as bad of a loss as like FA to Paparin and Rune to Nishioka. But as you said, all those losses are, they're not terrible. They're bad, but they're not like horrible.
Classify it. Yeah.
Once the Aussie Open hits and it's best of 5 and they have a full week to prepare, I think they're not going to be losing to those guys in best of 5.
And this is week 1, right? We're very excited because it's week 1 and because we got some data points for 23, but this is week 1.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of tennis left.
Shit ton.
So there's a lot left in the season. But yeah, honestly, less takeaways than I thought I'd have in the first few days. I was kind of thinking that I'd have more, but a lot of stuff that I saw on day 1 that looked bad and looked a little better on day 2. So like Medvedev having a really tough time with Sonego was concerning, but then he blew through Kecmanovic, which is he's Kecmanovic for breakfast, but the fact they beat him 3-love makes me think, okay, he is actually there. So not a whole lot. I mean, it's week 1. That's a lot of my takeaway.
Tsitsipas had 2 tough matches, one against Dimitrov, one against Koric. But those are actually guys he typically struggles with. So
yeah, Yeah, I don't have much.
Yeah. Are you there?